Hi, and welcome to today's screencast video lecture. We are going to talk about the literature review paper, which is coming up now. We have been doing building up assignments, and we are now prepared to write your literature review paper. So there is an example as an FYI posted on Canvas, as there was in last week's assignment as well. Your entire document will be a 6-page document. 3 of those pages will be the summary. Your first page will be the title page. Your second page will be the abstract and a list of keywords. And then your final page will be the reference page. Remember, the reference page needs to be in proper AMA format. And there is the AMA format citation style guide that is posted on Canvas for you to review. Here's an example of what your paper should look like, obviously in written form, but that first box is an introduction paragraph. Then you'll have at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 topical paragraphs, and then you will write a conclusion paragraph. So your entire literature review paper will be no more than 3 pages worth of information as you become a tour guide of your chosen topic. It needs to be around 3 pages, so you can't write a solid paper that's properly summarizing information in 1 or just 2 pages. So please have at least 3 topical paragraphs within your paper. So again, remember, you are summarizing primary resources. That means you are summarizing actual papers that are being written about experiments. So the authors and the researchers are the same. It's an experiment-based paper. Some of you have found some very well-written critical reviews or some very well-written literature reviews, but every time that you write a review on another person's information or experiment, there's a slight amount of bias. And so if you're writing a review on a review, that's additional bias being used. So if you find a literature review paper that you really enjoy, why don't you scroll down to the bottom and see their references, and then use those references, if you can find the article in full length, as your own reference. And so you've already then got a list of references that you can look up. Make sure that they're not informational articles, and make sure that they're not outdated. So they need to be within the last 10 years. So when you're looking at an article, if there's a methods section, then that means that it's probably an experimental-based paper, a primary source that you can use. So on Canvas, for your journal article review, I write very specific instructor comments, not just on the right where the column is, but actually within your paper itself. So we've been doing building upon assignments. So if you go back to week 8 on the module, you did your technical writing assignments video, which I had posted. There was a scholarly writing and AMA document, and in that document it has links for the Point Loma Tutorial Center, the Writing Center, and then another link for the Purdue OWL Writing Lab, which is really helpful if you have AMA questions. And then you also did the grammar and AMA quiz back in week 8. In week 9, then, you were introduced to evidence-based practice with Dr. Cosby's video, and you wrote your PICO statement. And then in week 10, you did your introducing of primary sourced articles. So you learned what a primary sourced article was. You took a technical writing quiz after you scrolled through a lot of information explaining the future assignments, and you did a short plagiarism assignment. And then in week 11, last week, you found your own primary sourced evidence-based article and wrote a journal article review paper. So in that module, there were some helpful documents that showed you step-by-step how to navigate through the library's free data system. I posted some example articles that are acceptable. I posted some example articles that are not acceptable. And then again, the AMA citation style guide, which shows you how to properly cite a journal article. So then this week, you now can use the last 4 weeks' assignments and information as you are preparing yourself to write a literature review paper. So be sure to go back through the past modules just to make sure that you are taking full advantage of what's already been posted. If you don't know how to view specific comments from professors, not just in our class, but in other class, here's an instructional guide from your phone. And then here's one from your laptop. So if you want to read through those instructions, you can pause the video and do so on your own. So again, make sure that you're not wasting your time or your professor's time when they're leaving you very specific comments within your papers on how to make corrections for future assignments. So your journal article review, some of the most common comments that I noticed I was writing as I was grading through and reviewing them in your class and then also in orientation to kinesiology. Number one, the first time that you write out an acronym, make sure that you also tell the reader what it stands for. So for example, if you're writing about high intensity interval training, you write out the phrase high intensity interval training and then in parentheses write HIT, and then throughout the rest of your paper you can call it HIT. So if you just start out with an acronym, MTSS, your reader won't know what MTSS stands for. So introduce it, medial tibial stress syndrome, also known as MTSS or in parentheses MTSS. Physical activity, you're allowed to do it as an acronym. Lateral epicondylitis, you're allowed to. Alzheimer's disease, you're allowed to. You don't have to. But some of the longer phrases, it would be easier for you to type them as acronyms rather than the entire phrase. Once you write the acronym, you don't go from HIT to high intensity interval training and back to HIT again. So make sure that you're being consistent with that. Another thing with consistency is sometimes you'll notice that the articles that you're reviewing will call something by a slightly different name, or they'll slightly they'll type it out slightly differently. So for example, Alzheimer's disease, sometimes disease is not capitalized and sometimes it is. In your own writing, I want you to choose one method and you continue with that method. So be consistent in how you describe and spell things in your own paper. Another thing that I noticed that I wrote a lot, in the reference page, this would be correct, but for a title page, you need to properly capitalize it as shown in the examples. And what I mean by that is if this is the title page that was submitted, when they write the benefits of physical activity on Alzheimer's disease, that's how you would write the title of the article in the reference page. So in AMA format, you only capitalize the first word and proper nouns in the reference page, but on an actual title page, make sure that you are fully capitalizing everything just as shown in all of the examples. So you could see there, human growth hormone supplementation in sports, so fully and properly capitalized. Number 3, don't begin a sentence with a number and numerical form. Either change the sentence structure or spell it out. So here are some examples. If you look at the bottom one, 1, 2, 3, 123 subjects. So don't begin it in numerical format. So either spell out 123 or change the order of the sentence. And when you are writing numbers, so there are very specific rules in AMA format about when to write the number in numerical form and when to spell it out. And I'm not particularly worried about following those rules, but I do want you to be consistent in how you're writing it. So don't write 2 months with the number and then write 6 with the letters, with writing it out in numerical form, or sorry, in written form. So choose a method and then be consistent with that. And then number 4, if I can't tell what you're saying or if your sentence doesn't read well, I'm not going to change it for you, but I will highlight it and I will write a comment that says this sentence or this paragraph, this statement doesn't read well. So then read it out loud to yourself and restructure it or reformat it somehow so that I am able to or other readers are able to tell what it is that you're trying to say. So again, be resourceful, review comments that I've left in your journal article review, and then these next few slides are examples of some comments, or sorry, we already went through those examples of comments. Okay, so now we're on to your abstract. So the second page of your literature review paper, you're going to be writing a 1-paragraph summary. I would suggest writing it after you've written your entire paper because then you can summarize your introduction paragraph, your topical paragraphs, and your conclusion paragraph. It needs to be pretty short, 250 to 300 words. I won't word check it. There are no citations, in-text citations in your abstract. Do all of your in-text citations in your actual paper itself. And if you define an acronym in the abstract, you need to then do it again in the paper. So treat them like 2 separate documents. So your abstract essentially has the purpose, the problem, the methodology, the results, and the conclusion. I will let you read through that if you want to pause it on your own, but I don't need to read it all for you. So aside from the abstract, in that second page underneath the abstract, you'll then have a list of keywords. And those are the keywords where if your article, was to be published, these would be the keywords that I would be able to type in the search box when looking for your article. So maybe 5 to 10 keywords would be appropriate for your literature review paper. Okay, again, so looking at what your actual literature review paper would look like, in your introduction, you're introducing the topic that you are going to then be writing about to your reader. So in your introduction, you need to have a thesis statement. So you know what a thesis statement was. That was part of your quiz last week. It is the focus of your paper. It is the problem statement. It is the purpose statement. So this is just a review, as you've already taken a quiz on this. But for your thesis statements, if you want to use your PICO statement, or if you want to use several PICO statements to come up with topical paragraphs, that's completely okay. If you're running out of new ideas on what to look for as you're doing your own search through the library database, go back to our discussion board activity and look for some other ideas from your classmates' PICO statements. So here are some examples of thesis statements that have been used in the past that tell you very specifically the population, and then it tells the reader what to expect when they continue reading your paper. So in patients 60 years or older with Alzheimer's disease, there is improved memory, brain function, and personality with patients who are physically active versus inactive older people. So I know that this paper will be summarizing information from experiments that took place with 60-year-olds or older who have Alzheimer's, showing that there's an improvement in those who are physically active. Another one, in professional male tennis players with lateral epicondylitis, strengthening exercises and active rest of the elbow are effective in reducing pain and allowing the continuation of play. So this thesis statement tells me that all of the articles summarized took place with male tennis players who had this tennis elbow, and that these specific activities allowed them to continue to play. Another one, in athletes with MTSS, the FDM method of treatment is more effective at reducing pain and healing the fascia bone than traditional physiotherapy. So all of their articles are going to back up the idea that FDM is more beneficial in regards to a treatment method than any of the other treatment methods. Your articles might say something different, but that's what the summaries of the articles of this person said. And then finally, one on HIIT. Those participating in HIIT had similar results as those participating in moderate intensity interval training. However, they have to work 40% less in regards to time than those doing MIIT exercises. So those are examples of some thesis statements that you might be able to copy or to use similarly according to the articles that you have found. Your thesis statement needs to be highlighted, so I will see it directly in your first paragraph. And you're not adding any new information. It's not a question. There's not a hypothesis because you've already done your research, and now you're ready to jump into your topical paragraphs. So with your topical paragraphs, you're going to be choosing 3, 4, or 5 different themes that are all unique. Each of the themes are different. They're not all talking about the same topic, which is why you have several topical paragraphs. And you can choose to do this however you want, even though there are only 4 options, unless you've chosen your own option for a literature review idea for your chosen topic. Each of your papers will read very differently. Some of you will summarize them research article by research article. Some of you will summarize them the method used or the participations used or the results shown. However you want to decide upon your themes, that's fine with me. Just make sure that you have distinct paragraphs. You don't want just one very long paragraph. So separate them idea by idea, and then always make sure that you're writing a conclusion paragraph. A paper can't just end. It can't end with new information. Your conclusion paragraph is not introducing the reader to any new information at all. And your conclusion paragraph is essentially a longer version of your thesis statement. I'm going to apologize in advance right now for the background noise that you will now hear. My office is in the gym, and this morning there was a volleyball class and then a basketball class, and then I started my recording, and now the men's basketball team is practicing, so you might hear some music in the background. You might hear their balls bouncing. I apologize. It's just a fact of where my office is. So there are only about 10 more slides though to review, so my apologies again in advance. So after you finish your summary, your 3-page summary, your final page for your literature review paper will be the reference page. Your reference page has the list of all of the articles that you have used in summarizing information as you have written your literature review paper. They appear in order of appearance. They're not in ABC order. You're not changing the order of the authors as they are listed, and you're writing them in proper AMA format. So below you see an example of 2 authors listed, sorry, 2 articles listed. They're not listed with double spacing. There's no double spacing in AMA format. It's the authors, then the period, the title of the article that you've used, only capitalizing the first word, and potential proper nouns, a period. Then the title of the journal itself is in italics, period, and then the publication year, volume, issue number, and page number. And that is appropriate AMA formatting for journal articles. There needs to be 6 articles that you are getting your information from, and these 6 articles are original evidence-based practice, evidence-based, primary sourced articles that you are summarizing. If you have more than 6 articles, that is fine, but anything that appears in your reference page, that citation number then needs to appear in superscript when you are summarizing information. So if you are summarizing information from an article, you need to give that researcher, that article, its due credit by giving the number, the same number that appears in the reference page, in superscript in your actual paper itself. When you are done with your page, your document, your paper, please read it and read it again and read it again. Make sure that what you are thinking in your head is what you are typing. Make sure that your paragraphs are tied together with appropriate transitional sentences. Make sure that you're reading it out loud. When you read it out loud, it oftentimes sounds different than when you read it in your head. Have a roommate or a friend or a parent read it for you. If you're struggling with your academic and technical writing, go ahead and make an appointment with the Writing Center and have them read your assignments. It's something that you are more than allowed to do and encouraged to do, and it's free here for Point Loma students. When you are ready to submit your assignment, before you submit it on Canvas, make sure that you run it and turn it in through the website, and you're submitting the entire document, not just the 3-page summary, but all of it, and then you're checking your originality report score. You're looking through the highlighted sections, the highlighted sentences, maybe paragraphs, hopefully not paragraphs, and you're seeing, did you properly summarize everything? And if not, re-go through your paper and better summarize so that you're not going to be docked points for plagiarism, whether it's incidental or on purpose. Your first edition is due Friday, so you have 1 week to work on and submit your paper. This is a 100-point assignment. Your first edition is worth 35% of your grade, and your final draft is worth 65% of your grade. If you are completely okay with your percentage score on the first edition, you can resubmit it as your final draft, or you can make small changes. I will be highlighting and writing comments for suggestions for changes or for formatting errors and whatnot. Some of you will need to use the next 3 weeks then to rewrite or to rework or to find new sources that are applicable and allowable. And so you've got several weeks then to submit your final draft. Okay, because I know that some of you are feeling extremely busy and overwhelmed maybe with other classes and the assignments that you have, I have rearranged our Canvas schedule just slightly. So this here is a screenshot of what you see on this week's module. The yellow highlighted part is what I have added, and it's essentially an optional extension because I will dock 5 points if you submit your assignment late. However, I'm going to allow you to submit it late by 1 week. So if you're feeling overly stressed, your due date is still this Friday. However, you have 1 extra week, which is the week of Thanksgiving break. I'm not making you submit an assignment on the day after Thanksgiving, but I'm allowing you to give yourself a handful of extra days if you feel the need to finalize and submit your paper to make sure that it's something that you are happy with. So papers submitted past the November 22nd date will be accepted, but they will be docked 5 points from whatever your score is. So with that, the week of Thanksgiving, originally it read that you're going to be doing a devotional reading and a short paper response with that. However, I've taken the devotional reading out, and so Thanksgiving break, you will either have it off completely for our class, or you can use Thanksgiving week, to work on your first edition of the literature review assignment. So it can be submitted past its original due date. Normally, once the original due date is passed, the assignment ceases to exist on Canvas. So it will continue to exist for one more week. But if you would like to submit it late by that week, there will be a 5-point deduction, which is not horrific, but it's something that might be an option for you. And then you have several weeks to refine your paper for your final edition, which is then due Friday night on December 13th. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that this alleviates maybe some questions and some stress that you have as you start to write your paper.